On February 14, 1972, a city gave a rock band its own official day. That same day, the band broke up. One side had a mayor's proclamation, the other had exhaustion, lineup damage, and a machine that had ground the group down. They recorded their first album in 4 days. One song from it nearly reached #1. Another helped turn Easy Rider into a counterculture landmark. They sold more than 25 million records, according to their official biography. Yet their story kept getting trapped inside one image: motorcycles, leather, engines, and the phrase, heavy metal thunder. The world heard Born to Be Wild and decided it knew them. But the band was never that simple. Their biggest anthem was written by a man who did not stay. Their classic lineup cracked almost as soon as the hits arrived. A bassist who helped write Magic Carpet Ride died young after a motorcycle accident. Their drummer died in a car crash. Later, fake versions of the band toured under the name they had built. The charts were real. The breakup date was real. The deaths were real. This is Steppenwolf's real story. And the cruelest twist is not that they became famous for freedom, it is that the name itself became something they had to fight to control. Chapter 1. The refugee who heard America through a radio. Before Steppenwolf had a name, there was a boy in post-war Germany listening to a sound he could barely understand. John Kay was not born John Kay. He was born Joachim Fritz Krauledat in East Prussia in 1944, into a world already broken by war. His father had been killed fighting in Russia 1 month before he was born. That absence matters, because Steppenwolf's music did not come from boys pretending escape sounded cool. For Kay, escape was memory. As a child, he and his mother fled into what became communist-controlled East Germany. When he was 4, they escaped again into West Germany. A childhood like that teaches you early that borders are real, danger has geography, and freedom is not just a word people shout in a song. In Hanover, Kay found one of the great portals of his life, U.S. Armed Forces Radio. He heard American rock and roll before he fully understood English. The words were partly locked away from him, but the beat got through. The promise got through. That radio was not background noise. It was a signal from another life. It also gave Kay a strange kind of education. He was not studying rock and roll in a classroom. He was taking it in through static, distance, and desire, the way kids do when a sound seems to belong to the world they want to reach. In 1958, Kay moved with his mother and stepfather to Toronto. In Canada, the music widened. Rock and roll, rhythm and blues, country, gospel, late-night radio, all of it folded into the voice that would later sound rough, direct, and strangely certain. By 1965, Kay was part of Toronto's Yorkville Village scene, and he joined the Sparrow. The band did not yet have Steppenwolf's name, but some of the bones were already there: drummer Jerry Edmonton and keyboard player Goldie McJohn. Before there was Born to Be Wild, there was a refugee kid hearing America through a radio, and soon, that sound would lead him to Los Angeles. Chapter 2. From the Sparrow to a name on a demo box. The Sparrow had pieces of the future, but not the future itself. The group moved through Toronto, New York, San Francisco, and eventually Los Angeles, chasing a rock world that was getting louder, heavier, and stranger. But the Sparrow did not survive the trip intact. By 1967, the old band had run its course, and John Kay needed a new vehicle. Producer Gabriel Meckler, who was connected to ABC Dunhill, encouraged Kay to put together a new band for the label. The lineup came together fast. Kay would sing and play rhythm guitar. Jerry Edmonton, the drummer from the Sparrow days, came with him. Goldie McJohn brought the organ sound, that thick keyboard presence that helped give the band its shape. On guitar, they brought in Michael Monarch, who was only 17. On bass, they added Rushton Marieve. That was the first Steppenwolf lineup. Except they were not Steppenwolf yet. The name arrived like a practical errand. They needed something to write on a demo box, something a label could see. Meckler suggested Steppenwolf, taken from the Hermann Hesse novel. Kay later said he did not even know the book at the time. No grand ceremony. It was a name on a box. And that is what makes it perfect. Years later, that same name would become valuable enough for people to fight over, tour under, protect, and argue about. What started as a quick solution became the one thing that survived almost everything else. The band recorded its first album in only 4 days. 4 days to catch the voice, guitar, organ, drums, bass, and attitude before anyone had time to overthink it. Nobody in that room knew they were building one of rock's most stubborn myths. They were just trying to make a record. That is why the beginning feels so dangerous. There was no time to sand off the rough edges. The performances had to carry the hunger of a new band still figuring out what it was, and that rawness became part of the appeal. Chapter 3: 4 days, 1 anthem, and a myth they could not escape. The debut album was called Steppenwolf, and it arrived in 1968.
The misery on his brain. Stoned on sun.
Inside it was the song that would make them famous, define them, and trap them all at once. Born to Be Wild was not written by John Kay. It was written by Mars Bonfire. Born Dennis Edmonton, a former member of the Sparrow world, and the brother of drummer Jerry Edmonton. So the band's most famous anthem came from someone connected to their past, but not standing inside their future. Still, once Steppenwolf recorded it, the song belonged to the world's imagination. It hit number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100 in 1968, not number 30. Not a cult favorite hiding in the album racks. Number 2. It was right there at the top of American pop culture, pushing against the door. Then came Easy Rider. The film used both Born to Be Wild and The Pusher, and suddenly the band was no longer just a hard rock act with a hit single. They were part of a moving image. Motorcycles rolling down the highway, America opening up and closing in, freedom turning darker the farther the road went. That placement changed everything. For millions of people, Steppenwolf became the sound of engines, rebellion, and escape. The band did not just get heard, it got attached to a fantasy. The line that helped seal it was sitting right there in the song, heavy metal thunder. Those words followed them for decades. The phrase became tied to the later rise of heavy metal as a rock term, even though the history is more complicated than one band, one song, or one lyric. The safe truth is strong enough. Steppenwolf gave rock one of its most famous pieces of language. But a phrase can become a cage. The world heard Born to Be Wild and decided Steppenwolf was a biker band. That image helped them sell records. It gave them instant identity. It made them unforgettable. It also narrowed the room. Because the same debut album carried The Pusher, a darker song with a different kind of bite. Later records would show political anger, social tension, and a band trying to say more than the public image allowed. That was the strange bargain of Born to Be Wild. It gave them a career. Then it started collecting rent. Still, Steppenwolf was not done proving itself. Almost immediately, they came back with another hit, and this one moved differently. Less engine smoke, more strange color, more groove. The myth was loud, but the band still had another card to play. Chapter 4: Magic Carpet Ride and the Proof They Were Not a Fluke. The next hit should have ended the argument. If Born to Be Wild made people think Steppenwolf was only engines and highway smoke, Magic Carpet Ride proved the band had another side. It came from the second. Released in 1968, and it did not simply repeat the formula. This was not the same road anthem in a new jacket. Magic Carpet Ride had color, swing, and a loose strangeness built for late-night radio. John Kay and Rushton Marave, the bassist, wrote it together, and that matters. Marave was not just holding down the low end, he helped create one of the band's defining records. The song reached number 3 in the United States and stayed on the chart for 16 weeks. That was longer than any other Steppenwolf single. So this was not one lucky lightning strike. They had followed a number 2 hit with a number 3 hit. For most bands, that would be the dream. For Steppenwolf, it raised the pressure. They now had AM radio success, FM underground credibility, and a sound that could hit both the body and the nerves. Kay's voice had gravelly authority. Goldie McJohn, the keyboard player, gave the band a thick organ attack. Jerry Edmonton, the drummer, kept it moving with force. Michael Monarch, the teenage guitarist, gave the early records a sharp bite. Everything was working. That was part of the danger. The more successful Steppenwolf became, the more the machine needed them to stay useful. More records. More touring, more proof. Keep the engine running until the parts start coming loose. And the parts were already coming loose. Before that became impossible to ignore, the band pushed forward. At Your Birthday Party arrived in 1969, and Rock Me became another top 10 hit. But the public image kept getting smaller than the actual band. Steppenwolf could sell wildness better than almost anyone, but they had songs with teeth. They had political anger. They had a singer whose life had already taught him that freedom was never just a slogan. The band's later work made that clearer, especially on Monster.
The religious, the hunted and weary, chasing the
where the music turned towards social and political fire. But fame had already done what fame often does. It did not just lift them, it froze them. And when a band gets frozen that early, every change looks like a threat. Every new direction has to argue with the old photograph in the audience's mind. Chapter 5. The classic lineup falls apart. The classic Steppenwolf lineup did not last long enough to become comfortable. The lineup people think of as the real early Steppenwolf was already changing almost as soon as the band became huge. The hits made them look solid from the outside, but inside, the floor was shifting. Rushton Marave, the bassist who helped write Magic Carpet Ride, left in late 1968. That was a major loss. His name was attached to the band's second giant hit. He was replaced by Nick St. Nicholas, another musician connected to the earlier Sparrow world. Then, in 1969, Michael Monarch left. Monarch was the guitarist who had joined when he was only 17, and his playing helped define the snap and bite of those early records. When he was gone, Larry Byram came in, and later Kent Henry would enter the guitar role. By early 1970, the bass position changed again, with George Biondo replacing Nick St. Nicholas. For a listener, those names can blur, but for a band, they are chemistry. They are arguments in vans, glances on stage, studio instincts, and musical habits nobody notices until they disappear. Steppenwolf kept moving, but it was no longer the same animal that had recorded that first album in 4 days. And while the lineup shifted, the band tried to widen the story. That is where Monster matters. The album pushed into heavier political territory, and the title track became a surprise hit. This is the part casual memory often misses. Steppenwolf was not only writing music for a highway fantasy, they were looking at America, power, hypocrisy, and the ugly side of the dream sold to a generation. That made sense coming from Kay. His childhood had been shaped by war, borders, escape, and propaganda. When he sang about freedom, it did not come from a bumper sticker. When the band turned political, it fit the deeper story. But the industry rarely rewards a band for becoming harder to summarize. The public still wanted the easy Steppenwolf, the one with engines, the one with the immortal road song, the one that could be dropped into a movie scene and understood in 5 seconds. Meanwhile, the actual band had to live through the grind. Albums, tours, personnel changes, expectations, pressure from the label, pressure from audiences. By the early 70s, the machine had extracted the heat and left people exhausted. Then came February 14, 1972, Valentine's Day. Los Angeles Mayor Sam Yorty officially designated it Steppenwolf Day. That same day, the band broke up. On the public side, the city was honoring them. On the private side, the group had reached the end of its original road. The applause and the collapse arrived together. Steppenwolf had become famous for motion. By 1972, motion had worn them down, but the name was not dead. In some ways, the name was only beginning its strangest second life. Chapter 6. The Fake Bands, the Deaths, and the Last Ride. After the breakup, John Kay tried to step outside the machine. He released solo albums, including Forgotten Songs and Unsung Heroes and My Sportin' Life. The band had burned itself out.
the whole night long, just for $1.
and Kay had always carried more than one kind of music in him. Solo work gave him room to move without the name pressing down on every note. But Steppenwolf would not stay buried. After a successful European farewell tour in 1974, Kay reformed the band with Jerry Edmonton, Goldie McJohn, George Biondo, and new guitarist Bobby Cochran. The word farewell should have meant an ending. Instead, it opened another chapter. The reformed band recorded Slow Flux, Hour of the Wolf, and Skullduggery. Slow Flux produced Straight Shootin' Woman, which became a top 20 hit. Even after the original peak, the band could still land a punch. But the second run did not hold either. By 1976, that version of Steppenwolf was over. The name, though, was too valuable to disappear quietly. Kay later learned that former bandmates were touring with what the official biography calls a bogus Steppenwolf. Think about how bitter that must have been. A band spends years building a name. The name survives the lineup changes, hits, fights, exhaustion, and breakup. Then the name starts moving without you. Other people can stand under it, sell tickets with it, and damage what the public thinks it means. That is when the central wound becomes impossible to miss. Steppenwolf became famous for freedom, but now John Kay and Jerry Edmonton had to fight to control the band's own identity. In 1980, Kay launched a new lineup as John Kay and Steppenwolf. This was not the easy glamour version of a comeback. Kay later described the rebuilding period as humbling. The band had to tour hard, win back trust, and reclaim territory step by step. And then came the losses. Rustin Marev, the original bassist and co-writer of Magic Carpet Ride, died on July 1, 1981, from injuries connected to a motorcycle accident. He was 32. A member of a band forever tied to motorcycles and road mythology died young after a motorcycle accident. The fact is heavy enough. Then Jerry Edmonton, the drummer from the beginning, died on November 28, 1993, in a car accident. He was 47. Edmonton had been there when the Sparrow turned toward Steppenwolf. He had been there for the 4-day debut. He had been there for the name fight with Kay. In 2017, Goldie McJohn died of a sudden heart attack at his home in Burien, Washington. He was 72. The organ player whose sound helped thicken Steppenwolf's early roar was gone too. One by one, the early band became memory. Kay kept carrying the name longer than anyone could have expected. In 1994, he returned to former East Germany for Steppenwolf concerts and reconnected with people from the world he had left behind as a child. That same year, he published his autobiography, Magic Carpet Ride. The final show came on October 14, 2018, in Baxter Springs, Kansas. After 50 years of recording and performing, John Kay and Steppenwolf reached the end of the road. But the story did not vanish. In 2024, the documentary Born to Be Wild, the story of Steppenwolf, brought renewed attention to the band's rise, its Toronto roots, its hard rock impact, and the personality clashes behind the legend. That is the real Steppenwolf story. Not just one song, not just one motorcycle image, not just one phrase that helped change rock language. It is the story of a band that became famous for escape, then spent decades trying to escape what fame had turned them into. So yes, Born to Be Wild deserves its place. You hear it, and the image arrives before anyone says a word. The highway, the engine, the danger, the old dream of getting out before the world catches you. But Steppenwolf was never only that image. Behind the anthem was a refugee kid who heard America through a radio. Behind the roar was a band that recorded its first album in 4 days, watched its classic lineup crack almost immediately, and became famous faster than it could understand the cost. They were not just the sound of freedom, they were proof that freedom can turn into another kind of trap. If this story changed how you hear Steppenwolf, subscribe for more rock histories like this. The world remembers the engine, but the real story is the band that got dragged behind it.